greet you from Mackey Arena, where we have a real big game on tap. Our 13th ranked Boilermakers hosting the second ranked team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Rob Blackman, my broadcast partner on the radio side of things, Bobby Riddell. Buckets will be my broadcast partner for this segment here on the interweb as well. Man, talk about big games, non-conference. Now, we're used to big games in conference. And every now and then we have a high-level non-conference team come into Mackey Arena, but not since the opening year of Mackey Arena. Late 60s, when number one UCLA came to town. Now, if we had a team ranked this highly, it's non-conference in Alabama. This is going to be a big one tonight.
It sure is. Some guy named Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was on that UCLA squad back in 1967 and faced off against the great Rick Mount for Purdue. All-time classic game, and ironically enough, yeah, no non-conference foe has been ranked as high. That's pretty wild to think, considering all the years that have gone by since then, but number 2 ranking is a pretty high ranking, of course, only can get one higher, so it's going to be really fun to have a highly ranked team like this coming to Mackey Arena. We know what Mackey Arena is all about, one of the best home venues in the country. This team ain't too bad itself for Purdue, the 13th ranked team in the country, and I think everybody here is excited to see a heavyweight bout.
A lot of things to talk about when it comes to Alabama, and we will get to those. But first things first, let's talk about our ball club. 3-0 in the season. Those 3 games weren't certainly exhibition games. They were real games against, quite frankly, 3 teams that are probably going to end up in the NCAA tournament. But they're a different animal than what we're going to see tonight. With that said, lessons learned through those 3 games, plus the 2 exhibition games, including Creighton, whereas Purdue found itself and Matt Painter saying, hey, we're doing okay here. We're all right. And where does Matt Painter have himself saying, if we don't get this cleaned up, we're in trouble against a team the caliber of Alabama tonight?
Well, I think from an offensive standpoint, if you're Coach Painter, you're feeling pretty good about where things are standing. You have one of the best point guards in the country, Braden Smith, running the show. This is college basketball in general, becoming a guards game year by year even further. So Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, 2 really good guards, guys with a lot of experience, have played in a ton of big games, is a great place to start, and they've started out the year offensively on a high note. Fletcher Lawyer shooting about 1,000,000% from 3. It seems like maybe 75. Yeah, 75% to be exact, but feels like the guy is not missing at all. And then Braden Smith always playing at a high level, running the show. And then Trey Kaufman-Renn has filled in pretty nicely down there on the block for Zach Keady, who departed. Trey, a little bit inside-outside game, different player than Zach, to put the ball on the floor a little bit, but also does have that ability to score on the block. So offensively, along with all the shooters Purdue has, you feel good about where things stand. Defensively, on the other hand, rebounding is another note. Purdue allowed 50 points in the paint against Yale. Just for comparison purposes, last year, Purdue averaged allowing 28.8 points per game in the paint. So, you know, if you came close to doubling that number against Yale, and Yale, a really good ball club, as you pointed out, you think they've got a good chance to represent the Ivy League in the NCAA tournament. Of course, beat Auburn in the tournament last year, so good ball club, but allowing them to get 50 points in the paint in your home gym, that's not something that would have happened with Zach Keady down low in the paint. So one of those scenarios where you have a different ball club, you lost that interior presence defensively, and from a rebounding standpoint, we missed Zach there too. So how is Purdue able to kind of cobble together that front court and really just the whole team in general, right? Like Zach Eady's not there, so everybody has got a gang rebound and fill that void, and that's something that we heard that the coaching staff was harping on tremendously these last couple of days, is how do they establish more of a rebounding balance.
And it's not like the opposition is scoring in the paint because they're throwing it into their center, and he's making short work of the Purdue defense. It's the perimeter players that are driving the ball into the paint and creating the buckets.
No question. It's not like Purdue's faced Hunter Dickinson and Zach Eady the last 2 games, and they've been throwing it to them on the block and they've been going to work. It's been a variety of things: dribble penetration, fast break opportunities off live ball turnovers, just really poor job at containing the dribble in general, and offensive rebounding. You mentioned it, just a number of different things. And so Purdue's got to find a way to clean it up, and that's where Coach Les mentioned to me earlier today. It's not about Alabama. It's not about Yale, which team we're playing. Purdue in general just has to really do a good job of cleaning up its defensive principles and not allowing the opposition to get in advantageous positions.
For the record, when Purdue and Alabama played last year in Toronto, Alabama had 20 points in the paint. They scored 86 for the game. They didn't have a lot of points in the paint because in that game, they shot 46 three-point shots.
Wow.
46 threes attempted by Alabama in one game last year against Purdue. They attempted 18 two-pointers. Now, I bring that up because one obviously thinks, well, they probably shot a lot of threes because they didn't want to challenge Zach Keady at the rim. However, this is a potent team from three-point line. The problem for Alabama, at least early in the season, they're only shooting 30% from three. They're still shooting a lot of them. They just aren't making them.
Absolutely. They're 267th in the country in three-point percentage to start the year. So small sample size, but that's obviously not going to get it done here on the road against a really good team, I don't think. They're going to have to shoot the ball better. Granted, they are a good rebounding team, and Purdue's been struggling. So if they do miss those threes and are tip dunking them, Cliff Amore is a guy who can certainly do that, then they may still be okay. But it's going to be pretty tough for them, you would think, to come to this building, shoot the ball poorly from three, and win. Purdue, a really good three-point shooting team, and it's got a lot of good guys who can shoot the ball on their home floor. So it's going to be interesting to see how many three-point attempts they take. Last year, as you pointed out, that high volume, they were a high-volume three-point shooting team regardless, but I think extra high volume against us last year because of Zach Keady and his presence down low. So we'll see. I think this is a game now. They have the size advantage. They, last game, started three guys that are 6'10" or taller. So if they start that same group of guys, they're going to have the size advantage down low. We'll be curious to see if they try to get more paint touches considering what Purdue has been exposed in the paint. They also have a guy named Mark Sears who took a bunch of threes against us last year. How many threes did he end up taking in total against us last year in that game?
46 total.
Or no, but Sears. Sears in general took...
I have the box score.
Yeah, bring up that box score for us.
Mark Sears, who had 35 points, attempted 16 threes.
16 threes. So he clearly likes to get them up. He's going to shoot a high volume, and I expect that still tonight. But it's the other guys, what sort of volume are they going to take? Latrell Wrightsell Jr., they bring off the bench. He's probably their second best three-point shooter. So look out for him when he subs in. But that starting group outside of Mark Sears, not a ton of guys who are going to be high-volume three-point shooters.
Alabama, similar to Purdue, made it all the way to the Final Four last year. Also similar to Purdue, lost to UConn. Final Four lost to UConn for Alabama. National championship game lost to UConn for our Boilermakers. So these two teams have a lot in common. The one thing they do not have in common is their leading scorer back from the game last year played in Toronto. You just mentioned Mark Sears. 35 points for Alabama in the loss. Zach Keady had 35 for Purdue. He's not walking through those doors anytime soon here at Mackey. Now, Braden Smith had 27 points, played really well for Purdue in that game. One would think Braden will have to be on his A game tonight for Purdue to have a chance to beat Alabama.
Totally agree. It kind of does feel like one of those games where whichever team's star plays the best between Braden Smith and Mark Sears, they're going to have a really good chance to come out on top. Just a really fun, high-profile point guard matchup between those two guys. That's two of the premier point guards in the country. Sears 35 last year, Braden Smith 27. Braden Smith, more of a guy known for getting his teammates involved in facilitating. Sears can also do that as well, can certainly play make for others, but more of a kind of shoot-first kind of guy. But both those guys are going to have the spotlight on them tonight and got to come up big for their teams.
Here are the numbers from last year. Returning points from that game. Alabama returns 56 points from the game. Purdue returns 45. Just so you know, I'm just throwing it out there. The other thing Alabama returns is a guy who wasn't on their team last year, so maybe technically doesn't return. Bob already mentioned Cliff Amore, the star at Rutgers for 4 years, playing a grad student year at Alabama. So that now means poor Alabama only has 6 1,000-point career scorers on their roster. Oh, darn, they're really hurting for talent. And I think they have 3 McDonald's All-Americans, too.
Just a loaded group from a talent standpoint. Cliff Amore, they bring in all kinds of transfers who are talented. The freshmen, as you mentioned, those guys could start a lot of different places, and they do have one of them starting for them likely here tonight. So just a talented roster from start to finish. But it's going to be interesting with Cliff Amore. Saw an interview with Nate Oates before this game. They were asking Big Cliff, what's Mackey Arena like? Give us some thoughts. We've heard how great of an arena is. It is as loud as they say. And they asked, will we be able to yell out our offensive play calls and everybody able to hear them okay? Cliff Amore seemed to say he didn't think that was going to happen. So my guess is Alabama's going to have a different strategy on how they're going to be relaying their offensive play calls here tonight because we know Mackey's going to bring it.
An All-American in Braden Smith battles an All-American tonight in Mark Sears for Alabama. Mackey Arena. You just heard Bob talk about what Cliff Amore was trying to relay to his current Alabama teammates about how difficult this building can be to play in as an opponent. So if you're coming to the game tonight, we need you to make it extra difficult on the Alabama Crimson Tide, the second-ranked team in the country, who will enter with a 3-0 overall record, and they have aspirations of going back to the Final Four, and they certainly have the talent level to do it. They're the preseason pick to win the SEC. Purdue's the preseason pick to win the Big Ten. Oh, for an early November game, baby. This one has all the recipe of being a big-time game. For Bob, I'm Rob. We hope you listen to us tonight on the radio network. If you're in Mackey Arena, we hope you're extra loud tonight. It's Purdue and Alabama. We'll tip it up at 7:02 from Mackey Arena. Thanks for joining us tonight here on BoilerBall Pregame. We hope you have a great evening, everyone. Let's boiler up and let's hammer down.